Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 192 of ATL Prime Sports. I'm your guy. They call me LGZ, but I'm Larry Gardner. And joining me this evening is our wonderful producer up in Memphis, Tennessee, Wayne Ridenhour. Guys, JJ, thoughts and prayers are with you in the loss of your family member. He's not with us today. He's in Mississippi. And then, of course, TC, who you normally see with us, he's out doing some umpiring and a lot of other things, so he won't be with us tonight. But you can catch us all on our social medias. You can find us at the show, of course, at ATL Prime Sports on Facebook, Twitter, they call it X, Instagram, YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. Of course, you can find JJ on Twitter or X at JJ Get You One. Wayne is at RWY Jr. Our man TC Todd Corder is at Corder Todd. That's Corder Corder Todd. And of course, you can find me at LG the number 4. Real though. So, Wayne, tell me, how are you doing on this wonderful Wednesday, my guy?
Well, I'm a little bit wet right now if I go outside because we get big storms coming through here. But I did get all of my fertilizing, weeding, and all that stuff done before the rain hit. So I'm in great shape as far as that goes. How about you down there in Georgia, man?
Yeah, we're doing wonderful. We're getting over a record high pollen count on this weekend of 14,000. To where the point it was so bad to where clothes were yellow, driveways were yellow. It was like literally the running joke that we had running on social media was like we was all running around getting dusted like we were about to become some lemon pepper chicken wings. But it was pretty crazy, man. But I appreciate you asking. All is well. All is well. All is well. Things are just wonderful. Baseball season's heating up. Opening day for a lot of minor league baseball teams happening this week. Of course, the Major League Baseball season is already a weekend, and boy, do we have some things to discuss about that on this evening. What's coming up on today's show? We're going to recap the NCAA men's and women's tournament, and we're going to give a opinion of what's going on the Final Four, of course, and we got a chance to see a lot of that this weekend. We are going to talk a little bit about what's happening in Major League Baseball over the opening week. What is going on with the Bravos? They are winless up to this point. The hammer coming down just a couple of days ago with Jerks and Profar, the addition that we thought was going to be what we needed to help keep us over the hump until Acuna got back. Suspended 80 games for a PED banned substance taken, and he will not even be eligible for postseason play. We will also talk about the NBA is as skilled as ever. We saw the Joker, Nikola Jokic, put up a 60-point triple-double, the most in history ever. The NBA is as skilled as ever with players and positioning, but people seem to not care. We'll talk a little bit about why that is. And of course, Wayne and myself will give you all our final thoughts. But with that being said, we're going to open up the show. We're going to talk about the recap of the NCAA men's tournament, and we're going to talk about some of the things that we saw over the weekend, how the Elite Eight and the Final Four came to be. And Wayne, the biggest story I think everybody has been chomping at the bit over. It's kind of twofold. The dominance that Duke was able to put over Alabama.
Oh, yeah. Whew. Alabama just did not look good at all.
And you know what happens, Wayne? Usually the way Alabama shot against Michigan State, where they were on this 3-point barrage and couldn't miss.
Yeah.
Usually what happens, and you know this just as well as I do, if you live by the 3,
oh, yeah,
you usually die by the 3. And that's kind of the case that happened over the weekend with Alabama, of course. And then on the flip side of things, the injury that we saw with Auburn that we thought was going to be a Willis Reed 2.0, and he comes back and then leads the Tigers to victory. And, you know, a lot of times, Wayne, we thought probably a couple of weeks ago, we thought Auburn had peaked, but they're playing some really, really good basketball here so far. Tell me, what has been your surprise team with Attorney? Did you expect it to kind of be an all number one Final Four? Did you think that somebody might have been able to poke their heads in? Did you see a Cinderella coming up, or was this what you kind of expected from the jump?
Well, I tell you, when it got up to the Elite Eight and we knew who were in the Elite Eight, I started having this little fantasy trip in my head that we were going to get an all SEC Final Four. And, once that got taken away, I was like, okay, it's all number ones. No wonder. So I'm not surprised that who's in there now. And I kind of wish that Arkansas had gone a little bit farther, but it is what it is.
And they surprised me a lot too. I mean, they surprised me, but they didn't. We know who Coach Cal is. We've
Right.
seen what he is able to do with any team. Whether if you go all the way back to the UMass teams with Marcus Camby, of course, the string of Final Four teams that he put together while at Kentucky, and even here in Arkansas, just catching the SEC by storm and making a run to the Sweet 16 without what he's used to in NIL money. He's still going to be that recruiter that is able to recruit talent. And those of you who are Woo Pig Suey fans in Arkansas, They're in Fayetteville, I think you're going to be excited for years to come as long as you can keep him in the building. I think you'll get back to the days of Mr. Richardson himself.
Yeah, Nolan Richardson.
Yeah, man, and we all remember that. And
absolutely,
we look and see what Auburn has done, but the team to me that has impressed the most with the least amount of following has been Florida.
Yeah,
and I don't know why, with the length that Florida has, the way they play defense, I don't understand why they haven't gotten the notoriety or the recognition during this tournament like the other number one seeds have. Maybe there isn't a cute and cuddly storyline to follow them at all, but they just continue to win basketball games. And regardless of not, Auburn and Florida is going to be a pretty big matchup, but Duke and Houston's going to be a big matchup,
Yeah, you've definitely got some different styles and types of basketball being played here. But Houston's the most intriguing because I feel like they can switch from one to the other a little bit quicker than the other ones. And you had mentioned Florida. Why not? They're not getting as much, name recognition. Mm-hmm. I think it's because people who are not Florida fans don't really trust Florida. It's like you want to pull for them, but then you're like, I don't know. I don't want to get let down. Whereas the other teams that were up there, let's say Sweet 16, even Elite 8, there were ones in there that you could definitely pull for and know you had a chance to win. But Florida's got this little question mark sometimes.
And it's always been that way. And I don't know where it comes from because even with Billy Donovan's Florida teams, he was able to get the most out of the Al Horford and Joakim Noah teams that were able to go back to back. Florida has been able to do this all season long. They've been right at the top of the power rankings, and of course the AP All Pro, the All Pro rankings. They've been at the top, near the top all year long. They've kind of, it's the easiest way to put it to me, Wayne, has been Auburn, Alabama, Florida, and a couple of other SEC teams have literally been playing, the bunny hop, where they literally just hopped over each other and going back and forth all season long. And, the cream always rises to the top. And you have to survive in advance, and they've done just that. So that being the case, even with all of this going down, the question is, how does Florida compete with Auburn's offense?
Well, I'm anxious to see how Broom's going to be, how he's going to play. But I really think that the teams that I've seen so far, if they slack in one area, let's say offense and defense, just to make it simple, if one team is at the, playing as hard as they can, offense and defense, and the other team is either playing great offense and slack defense, then they're going to have trouble. So you really can't slack off on any part of the game. And that may be another issue that people are so unsure about Florida because they really didn't get to see them play as much as the other teams.
Yeah, no doubt. And with everything that's going down, and you mentioned Houston too, I think a lot of times what Houston does to help themselves get into predicament to win is the way that they grind the basketball game out. They don't like to run the floor up and down.
That coach has that environment down there. That's his whole set. I mean, they used to be in our conference. We had to play them twice a year and sometimes in the conference tournament. And every time that coach always had them ready to play no matter what.
Oh, absolutely. And people know Coach Sampson mainly from his days in Oklahoma. But what he's been able to do to revitalize that Houston program, I mean, Tell me a Houston team that you've seen in basketball that you can remember outside of Fox Slamma Jamma.
Well, I've seen them awful lot. Remember, they were in our conference, so I've seen a lot of them play, but I can't really name any players past that era. What was that, mid-'80s?
You got
Yeah,
early to mid 80s
I think I may have some of the Atlanta stuff playing from that time period too.
So most people look at Houston basketball and they think of two names. They think of Akeem Olajuwon
Right,
and they think of Clyde Drexler.
right.
Many of them, and we can go even earlier than that, but we won't, just to not to bore the audience. But Houston has been able to play a very defensive, well-grounded style of attack basketball
Yeah.
that has
Well,
gotten them to playing who most people say are the consensus number one team in the whole tournament, which is the Duke Blue Devils. And give credit to Duke and how they were able to stifle Alabama. None of us saw that kind of
no, I didn't.
matchup happening to where Alabama was just stymied. Duke's defense came out and they put the clamps down and they didn't let Alabama get any breathing room. Will they be able to do that with Houston? And will Cooper Flagg still continue to dominate the same way he's been able to dominate this entire tournament?
I just found out that, am I right thinking that kid just turned 18?
I think he did. I think he literally just turned 18. And
well, if he stays at Duke for any length of time, then they're going to be dominant for a time to come. But he doesn't seem like a transfer portal type guy, but you never know.
No, I mean, and a lot of people, if you hadn't known who Cooper Flagg was, during the Olympic trials, Cooper Flagg was on the team that played against the U.S. select team. And there was nobody on the U.S. Olympic team that could guard him one-on-one. Now, if he's already doing this at 18 years old against LeBron, Steph, KD, Anthony Edwards, Devin Booker, if he's doing that already against them, Houston has to know that they don't have anybody on their floor that can guard him one-on-one. If I'm Kelvin Sampson, I'm sending people at him all night long. I'm going to make somebody else beat me other than him, because Houston at 34-4, Duke 35-3, they're right there even with each other record-wise. You can sit there and break this down all you want, but the truth is you're going to probably have to make Duke beat themselves instead of you beating Duke. And when you've got the best player in the country, that's easier said than done. But Houston's been known to surprise us before. So we're just going to have to watch and see. I know everybody's going to be getting ready to look for it. Both games are Saturday on CBS. The Florida-Auburn game is scheduled for a 6:09 tip. The Houston-Duke game is set for an 8:49 tip. It'll follow immediately, of course, the Florida-Auburn matchup. So we'll get to see which one of those two SEC teams make their way to fight against Houston or Duke. And Houston would love to win that game there in San Antonio, right down the road from campus. I bet those tickets are flooded to the Houston campus people. So the Cougars are going to show up and show out.
I wouldn't doubt that even if you went down to the University of Houston's arena, that they probably don't have some kind of promotion going there where they're going to play the game on the big screen and just, you come in, pay like $5 to come in and watch it with the rest of the fans.
And we've seen a lot of schools do that when it hits Final Four time, and it would not surprise or shock me at all. I would definitely, if I were in the area, especially if I was a student,
or a fan
on a Saturday night, let's go run it up. Head to the arena. Let's watch it. Especially if they win, that place will go nuts.
Yeah.
It'll go nuts.
Here's another thing, though, about this two matchups. You've got, no matter who wins the first round, the Final Four stage, you're going to have a team that is really well seasoned, that has played a lot of really tough teams as far as, who comes from the Auburn, Florida side, versus two schools that have some extreme skill levels. And we're going to see which one matches up. The people that have an experience playing against tough teams are the schools that have these, exceptional skill levels.
Oh, absolutely. Think about this. The combined record of all four teams in the Final Four is 135-16. All right.
16.
Yes. There have only been literally 16 losses between these four teams all season long. All four teams are rated in the top 10 in both offensive and defensive efficiency. That's unheard of in this day and age. But even better than that, they are all each among the top 10 most efficient teams in the history of these type of ratings, which have been available since 1997. Do you see how many teams that we can recall from back then up until now? You know, these four teams are on a all-time level of greatness. You know, and we do miss the Cinderellas because it's always good to see, but when it comes championship time, just like it is in the NFL, man, you know, you want to see the Josh Allens and the Patrick Mahomes. You know, you want to see the Jalen Hurts. You want to see the even Jaden Daniels as a rookie. You wanted to see them make it. You wanted to see the Detroit Lions do well. You wanted to see Minnesota because they had a great record. You wanted to see Jordan Love and them do well. You didn't want to see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Sorry to my people that watch from Tampa. No shade thrown. But it just is, you want to see the best of the best.
Right.
And in this tournament, even through all the upsets that took place within the first two rounds, but once you got to the Sweet 16 and up, big men came out and big men played basketball. And guess what? It is time to watch how these people got here. Listen, I'm really intrigued about the Florida-Auburn matchup. Florida is probably the best offensive rebounding team in this Final Four, and we talked about it earlier about their size. They continue to get second chance opportunities. They love to knock it down on the kick out from three. The thing that Florida does more to me than anything else that I've seen during this tournament is they will turn the ball over, and you cannot give the Auburn Tigers multiple opportunities to bury you because they will do exactly that.
Yeah.
You know, so
whether it's early or late, they're going to have a run at some point that's going to shut you right out.
Yeah, man. And between, you know, Miles Kelly for Auburn, and of course, we've already talked about Johnny Broome and the wonderful tournament he has. And if he has another good game or two, I expect him to probably be the tournament. If it's not him, of course, it'll be Cooper. But I expect Johnny Broome to probably be the tournament most outstanding player when it's all said and done and they're playing one shining moment.
Yeah.
At the end of this thing. But one key player for that game that I'm really intrigued on watching is probably Denver Jones. And I know he's probably their best defender. I know he's their biggest clutch performer because he has come through time and time and time again during this tournament. The guards can shoot it. They graded the foul line. You know, free throws are always what it usually comes down to with these pressure situations. You know, is Bruce Pearl going to have these guys to play, or is he going to choke another big one? Is really the thing that we want to know. So, Wayne, you tell me, what say you? Who wins Saturday's first game, Auburn or Florida?
Well, I'm going to have to pick Auburn there because that's who I want to win. But you had mentioned the stats as far as these teams go, and as far as win-loss ratios go, I wonder if it matches up with the 1979 Final Four. Because I think that Indiana was an undefeated team, which may have, you know, skewed that a little bit. But do they even have those kind of records that go back that far? Is it something you got to go find one of your friends who's into it, go dig it all up?
Oh, I'm sure, listen, with the technology that's available to us, I'm sure I could probably pull it up on a page and go do some AI searching and pull it up and probably find out in a matter of minutes and figure whether that is. But for those of us who are old enough to remember, the 79 Final Four was the Magic Bird Final Four, of course. And we saw what the Michigan State Spartans were able to do to the Indiana State Sycamores, but it was the launching of the careers of both Magic and Larry Bird, propelling them both into the NBA and saving the NBA, in my opinion, for the careers that they both had.
We'll get to that topic, too, because I've got some ideas on that. You had mentioned, you know, why they're not being watched as much.
Oh, yeah. And look, that's a great tease. Our second game, of course, Houston and Duke. We talk about Houston being that defensive and rebounding team, and it's just they're the best defensive team in the country, and the Cougars can control the tempo, so it's going to be tough, you know. So we'll see what we got there, but Duke is Duke, man, and they are the most talented team. We've talked about it several times in the last few episodes, how they're at least 10, maybe even 11 deep, and all of them can do just as good when needed to be. But when they get the size, the length, the ability to switch, and we saw that defensive switching ability on Alabama because they could guard everybody.
Yeah.
You know, whether they tried to do the dribble handoffs or they tried to swing the ball and get a backside dish or any kind of movement that they were trying to get, Duke was right there with them, and they couldn't shake them. So because of that, it allows them to get in the passing lanes, and they deflect passes, and they get extra shot attempts, being able to be on the offensive glass, man. And, it's just between Cooper, we know Cooper is the guy. But for me, the player to watch is going to be Tyrese Proctor for Duke. And with his shooting and catch and shoot situations and being able to just knock it down off the dribble and make great decisions. If you got a ball handler that doesn't turn the ball over and can put your people in good positions to make good clutch baskets, 9 times out of 10, you're going to win the basketball game. So tell me, Wayne, what say you, Duke or Houston?
Well, I look at this game as being the sword against the stone. And is the sword going to split the stone, or is the stone going to dull the blade? And I would say Duke is the sword and Houston is the stone. Whose style of basketball is going to prevail on this? And I'm going to go ahead and say it's Houston.
All right, then. So you got an Auburn and Houston championship game. So if you got Auburn and Houston in the title game, who's going to cut down the nets?
Yeah, I'm going for Auburn. I wore the hat and everything.
Look, I already knew you were going to say that, but at least you had to let you find out, find out what you're going to say.
Yeah.
He's going with Auburn. Wayne is going with Auburn. Well, I tell you, for me, I do think that Auburn is going to beat Florida. I don't want them to, but I do believe that they're going to do it. I wanted Florida to win, and I know that's hard for me to say as a Miami fan and as a Georgia Tech supporter. But I do believe Auburn is deep enough and they're skilled enough and they're going to win that game. Yeah. I do believe Duke is going to beat Houston only because they're deeper. Whereas Houston may be 6, 7 deep. Those subs, man, when you start getting 8 deep, 9 deep, 10 deep, and you can get your big boys a lot of rest, and they're not what I call wobbly legs during the last about 7, 8 minutes of the game. That's always a good thing there. For me, I do believe Duke is going to be the ones cutting down the nets, man.
Okay.
And it's for the same reasons. They're so skilled. And the only way you're going to be able to really beat them is they're going to have an off night where everybody's off. And I haven't seen hardly one of those all year long.
No.
They've only lost, 4 times all year. So it's a rarity, but hey,
and one of Auburn's losses earlier in the year was to Duke.
Mm-hmm.
So those two teams have met before. I don't know if they do meet in a Final Four again. Is it going to be the same two teams or different two teams? And I'm going to lean on the different side. I don't think it's going to be the same team as they were at the beginning of the year.
No, and you grow so much from when basketball starts in October to when everything ends in April. You grow so much, and go ahead, Wayne.
There's always a person coming off the bench that surprises you too, and ends up being a starter by the end of the year.
Yeah, we've seen that story countless times, and Duke is just amazing, and Coach John Shire, what is this? The 4th year since Coach K retired, and Duke's right back to the Final Four.
Right.
And Coach Shire's got an opportunity to win one as a player, as an assistant coach, and as a head coach. So, there's a lot on the line for him as well. So, with everything that has transpired, it's good to me to see the best of the best compete for the chip. But at the same time, I think this is what you're going to start seeing this happen more often than not because of the NIL, because of the transfer portal, because of so many different things, because this era of college basketball is centered on the transfer portal and on 5th year and 6th year seniors, Think about how many seniors you have loaded on so many different teams, whereas, back when I was in high school in the mid 90s coming up out of there with that group, you used to always have, the all-star freshman, the one and done that was going to come and carry him, the one that was there at that point was, Allen Iverson. It was all about Allen Iverson at Georgetown doing his thing,
Yeah, Memphis had Derrick Rose doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm. So we all got a chance to see several one and dones do what they do, but now this is to the point where it's flip-flop. The kids are not necessarily doing it as 17 or 18-year-olds. Now you really got people who should be in their 2nd, 3rd, or even 4th year in the NBA because they're 24, 25, 26 years old, still playing college basketball. So when you got a team full of those, you can't help but that experience kept pushing people to the top. And I think it's gonna allow us to have a very good. And I could use different adjectives for people who care about those things, but I'm
Right.
not. I'm just going to use common sense, communicative language that you can understand. It's going to cause for a very good game on both sides, both of the first and the second one, and I think it's going to cause for even a more intriguing matchup come championship Monday night. And I'm looking forward to seeing how it all goes. On the women's side, and I won't go too long in that, to me, looking at the game between Texas and TCU, and then looking at the game, of course, between USC and UConn over the weekend, I couldn't just help but think of how different the game would have been had Juju Watkins not got hurt.
Right.
You know, to me, it was like they were so outmanned. They fought well for as long as they could, but again, Paige Buchers just took over, and she does what she does. And man, Gina Ariama, dude they're gonna have a statue of him outside the UConn campus when this is all said and done. And we're looking for another big time tournament on the women's side. South Carolina, the reigning champion, is there as well. So
Right.
listen, if you don't follow women's hoops, I know a lot of people don't. This is on our show, but give it a try. You might actually watch it a little bit, and actually, because
especially if you
go ahead.
especially if you catch a South Carolina game.
Oh, always. Gamecocks. The Lady Gamecocks play a brilliant brand, of basketball. So, looking forward to seeing that, and I will probably watch both of those games as well. So, I'm looking forward to everything that we've seen up until this point. Let's get ready to switch gears and talk a little bit of Major League Baseball. And Wayne. I wish I had my board that's got sound effects on this, because I would literally play some sound effects right now.
Taps.
I would literally play some sound effects right now for what's going on with our Atlanta Braves.
Well,
they have not won a game.
That's the most mystifying things. I can understand losing 1-2, but not yet winning. That puts them kind of far behind at the beginning. But it makes me feel better about my New York Mets pick.
I picked the Phillies to win the East, and I picked the Braves to get the wild cards, one of the wild card spots. The Atlanta Braves have scored 2 runs in the last 40 innings.
That's not good.
2 runs in the last 40 innings. If you can divide 40 by 9, that'll tell you how long it's been since they've scored or been able to put scores in. The thing that's sticking out to me, Wayne, though, is the starting pitching has not pitched bad. The problem is they haven't been able to get past the 6th inning. And I know I'm going to sound like one of these old gray-haired men on the porch when I make this comment. I grew up in an age where I saw pitchers pitch complete games on the regular. It was nothing to see Roger Clemens or Nolan Ryan or Doc Gooden, and I'm talking like 80s, early 90s, to see these starting pitchers go 8, 9. Heck, I watched Jack Morris in a World Series in 1991 with the Minnesota Twins go 10 innings.
I think there's some teams in the 70s that may have even done that.
Why is it that we have gotten to the point to where pitching has been so specialized that you can't get a pitcher who is supposed to be better trained, a better athlete, that cannot pitch past? Wayne, the pitchers I saw growing up, man, was smoking Marlboros in the tunnel.
Yeah.
And pitching 9 innings like it wasn't no tomorrow on 3 days rest. What is it? Is it that they play baseball and go just baseball all year long so that their arm just continues to get overutilized? So by the time they do get to the majors, they pitched like they're 80 years old?
It could be that. I mean, mileage matters.
Agreed. And more than just doggone pitching. But the Braves starting pitching has not had any run support at all. Chris Sale had a phenomenal outing against San Diego. We watched Spencer Schwellenbach not even give up a run and have a great outing. Even AJ Smith-Shawver, he only gave up 2 runs, but still, that's a great outing. The bullpen, the one element that we preached on all offseason long, has killed the Braves up to this point. The bullpen needs some help. And it's time out, man, for all of the sentimental feel-good stories. We got to get people on deck that can win. And right now, it's more about people that can hit, that people that can pitch. The ESPN showed a graphic, and I think MLB on Fox even might have retweeted it, where they had the Braves line up last night, and every one of them jokers was batting under 200. That's terrible.
Yeah.
You know, that's terrible.
I mean, I used to bat under 200, but you know,
it's hard, man. And I know those guys are trying, and I know they're fighting, and I know. Listen, I know. You know, here's the silver lining around that cloud. I think the Braves in 2021 started 0-3 or 0-4, and they ended up going on winning the World Series. So there's still some hope. Okay. But one of the biggest blows that came down the pipeline was the acquisition of Jurickson Profar and his suspension, 80 games for PED use. 80 games.
Man. What and I guess they're not going to explain which performance enhancer he was using. But what do you think of the idea that some people consider Gatorade to be a performance enhancer?
There are several substances that are probably performance enhancers, but some care more about others than Gatorade.
Yeah.
From reports, and these are rumors, and listen, on the ATL Prime Sports show, we do not spread rumors. We just talk about them once they're out there. All right. The rumor is it was an HCG substance, which is basically supposed to help flush after a steroid cycle.
Okay.
So
that makes sense. Like it's something they caught him doing something to cover something else up.
Yes, pretty much.
It's just like when you go to show up for your random drug check and they see diuretics in your sample.
Bingo, trying to flush some stuff out.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he wasn't successful, and I even posted it on social media that what a huge blow and a blemish already to what has already been an absolutely horrendous start to the 2025 campaign. Wayne, I got 2 questions for you. The first one, can they come back from this?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt. I see them being able to come back. I'm not sure they're going to be leading the division anytime soon, but I don't think they're going to sit in the basement.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time, maybe 16, 17-ish, that the Braves started out and kept being cellar dwellers, for lack of a better term, where they stayed at the bottom of the division rankings. But even then, you still saw some competitive balance there.
Yeah.
Right now, it's just they're just unlucky. They're putting the bat on the ball. It's just right at people. You know, poor Drake Baldwin, man. I got to give love to my guy Drake because I know him personally. I've seen him play several times. I've called his name several times. He is legit great baseball player, but he is having some of the worst luck ever to begin the season.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help that your starting schedule goes against the Padres and the Dodgers. You know, that doesn't help you at all. It's like playing the Avengers on the West Coast. But that being said, I think they need to get out of LA as quick as possible and make their way here to the friendly confines of Truist Park. I think this home weekend series against the Marlins is going to be just what the doctor ordered.
Yeah.
And hopefully they can right some wrongs. But man, but fans, if you are Braves fans, let me tell you, calm down. All right. There's not going to be any fire Brian Snicker, quit, stop.
Yeah.
Alex Anthopoulos is probably one of the top 3 general managers in baseball. He knows what he's doing. Give him time. This is week 1 of a season that will go from now until October. That's a lot of baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of baseball between now and halftime, or with the All-Star break.
Agreed. Spencer Strider hasn't gotten back yet. Sean Murphy hasn't gotten back yet. Ronald Acuna Jr. hasn't gotten back yet. So many different additions that will eventually come to help make this team better. Now, that said, people asking for Brian Snitker to be fired. Let me put this in terms for you. The equivalent of the amount of baseball that has been played up to this point would be the equivalent of about the first quarter, maybe even the first half of the first game in the NFL season of 17 games.
Yeah.
I have never seen a coach fired in the first half of the first game of a new season ever. Sometimes I know as fans it means fanatic, but sometimes we just got to quit just saying anything for clicks and likes and giggles just because you're emotional about it. Yes, nobody likes to see their team lose over and over and over again. And trust me, I guarantee you a win is coming. It is definitely coming. But you just got to give them time to get it right. And baseball is so finicky. You got to remember, a good baseball hitter is hitting the baseball 3 out of 10 times. That means you're not hitting it 7 times. So,
but you've got to make choices too.
Just a little wisdom and give them time. I do believe that they're going to get it right. I believe Brian Snitker should have been manager of the year last year to deal with everything that he had to deal with lineup changes, with injuries, with call-ups, with send-downs, with all of these different things. And Atlanta still made the postseason. To me, he should have been the manager of the year last year. Okay.
Yeah. Now, as far as Atlanta's bat, do you feel like the batting is what's been their downside?
Oh, right? Absolutely.
And I have not watched any of their games yet. I'm sure you have, and I know my mom has. But is it the speed of the ball coming off of the bat that's the problem, or is it the problem with just making contact, period?
No, it's a little bit of both. I mean, they're making contact. They're not striking out a lot. Well, a couple of them are. But they're making contact, but they're hitting them right at people, or they're hitting them to people who are making fantastic catches.
Okay.
And we saw that several times in the San Diego series. It was just repetitive. And then
what do you think of these new bats? They got these bottle bats. Yeah, torpedo bat. That's it. Maybe they need to switch to that.
Listen, I don't know what they need to do, but we found out real quick, fast, and in a hurry that the scapegoat that they tried to make Kevin Seitzer the batting coach or the hitting coach last year, guess what? It ain't his problem. It just ain't. And while I do understand what the players are trying to do, I do disagree the way the order is placed. I cannot for the life of me understand why Austin Riley is batting in the 2-hole. That makes no sense to me. It also makes no sense to me why Marcelo Zuna is batting cleanup. And I get because of his quote unquote, what's the word I want to use to make myself sound intelligent? Who cares about trying to be intelligent? It's the fact that he can hit the ball and usually hit more home runs, and you want to do that and try to give him RBI opportunities with people on base, and they're not doing good there. And that's really the big time is they're stranding so many runners on base. Once they do get them on base, they can't get them home.
Yeah, the only reason I could think they might have been putting him in that 2-hole is how is the bottom half of their rotation look? I mean, if you got a couple of strong guys there at the bottom of the rotation, maybe that 2 spot turns into something decent, but maybe not.
Well, I'll put it to you this way. When I looked at the lineup card that they released on Twitter today, I thought it was a spring training game.
Oh.
That's pretty much how bad it was.
Okay.
But who knows? They literally. I've watched baseball so long, you don't ever know, and they just got to keep playing. You got to hit your way out of it, and eventually they will. And you won't hear people whine for a little bit, but it's just.
Plus, you're being a PA announcer, you're more attuned to telling what's happening instead of why it's happening.
Yeah, we don't get a chance to get all the stats until otherwise, but I do have access to some tools that can give me the research stats that I need to be able to
Yeah.
have for the days that I do go over to the play-by-play booth. And because of that, you get to see a different story of what's happening. And it's on TV, you see one thing when you're announcing, you're watching it,
Oh yeah.
but when you get the chance to actually peel apart the onion, for lack of a better term, after the game is over with, and you start connecting the dots as to what's going on. They're putting the bat on the ball. Okay. Eventually, as one of my old baseball coaches used to say, Gardner, if you keep putting the bat on the ball, eventually it's gonna find some grass and it ain't gonna be
Right.
in the infield. You know? So they just gotta keep doing what they're doing, and they just gotta work some things out. I mean, we saw that they were rusty even heading out of spring training, and a lot of that lag is carried over into the first week of the season. So I want to see how they act once they get back and play in the friendly confines of Truist. And if a lot of this still goes on after that, then I don't know what to tell you, because
Yeah.
all bets are off at that point.
Well,
All bets are off at that point. So many other stories to talk about, though, man. It's been some great baseball being played. And even though we don't like the Dodgers in our neck of the woods, the Dodgers are playing some great baseball. The Reds are playing some great baseball, and one of my favorite non-Braves to watch has been Ellie De La Cruz, and he continues to just wow. He made a play the other day where he dove and caught the ball backward, and I said, "This is a legit superstar we're watching here in the making." And watch out for those Cincinnati Reds, man. I think they're going to make some noise in the NL
all right.
Central, and I'm just excited to see what they're going to do as a quote unquote non-Brave fan. You know,
Yeah.
their AA team, Chattanooga, is right up the road from where we are here in Adairsville, so we get a chance to see them on occasion. So looking forward to seeing what the Reds do.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of different stories. But again, fans, it's way too early to be lighting your torches and grabbing your pitchforks, you know, and
Yeah.
already writing the season off way too much time, Wayne. What say you?
Well, I'm just getting started on baseball because, basketball's been my focus. Plus, we got stock car racing that started, Formula One racing started. So I really hadn't gotten too deep into the baseball, and may be because the American League West usually doesn't start getting good to about June or July.
Well, trust me, it's going to be a lot.
Yeah.
The way that they play in the American League, and the Yankees and their torpedo bats and the amount of home runs that they've been able to hit, it's just been, listen, look, are we seeing the reinvention of the Bronx Bombers all over again? Because
So I hope not.
it sure looks like it,
Oof.
but we'll see. We'll definitely see. And that takes us to our third and final topic for the night. We won't spend a lot of time on this, but we previewed it at the beginning of the show in the open. The NBA is so skilled, and we can name several athletes that are not just U.S. born players, but international players who are just skilled basketball players. And it's some games are really intriguing enough to watch, some better than others, but there's a good product that's being played on the basketball court, yet no fan in the world seems to want to watch it. And my question to you, Wayne, is simply this: is it because the NBA has pushed their fan base off through making tickets unaffordable to where you can't hardly go to a game? Have they make it to the point to where there's so many other things going on during basketball season that takes the attention away? With the NFL season going primarily all the way till February now, basketball really only has February, March, and a little bit of April, because once April starts, then it goes to baseball season.
Yeah.
So has the NBA really alienated its fan base, or is there a bigger issue at hand that we don't really understand?
Well, I think it's a bigger issue than all that. I think those are things that happen as a result of what I think the problem is. And what I think the problem is you have individual players who are either so afraid to say anything because of sponsor deals and everything else, or because they're so into themselves they can't think of anybody else. But I really think if there were more rivalries, team to team, player to player, kind of like they were in the late 80s, 90s, into some of the 2000s, I think that drama would bring fans back more than, like you said, the skill level is already up high. And if they can keep from walking so much, and get a little bit of heat between players, fussing each other or saying something in a news conference instead of being all into themselves or afraid to say anything. I think that will bring back some people because people want to see stuff like that. And if there's a game involved, then they'll watch that too.
Well, we saw a lot of that just took place against the Timberwolves and the Pistons here just a couple of days ago in the big fight that Isaiah Stewart started in.
Well, Memphis had a little bit of drama with John Morant pretending he's going to school at Texas Tech, and they got all over him about it. And then they turned around and showed some cuts of I think it was Steph Curry or somebody shooting a rifle or something. So they're getting weird about that when they should just let these players play and create some excitement. The fans will want to watch it. But if you clamp them down like that, I mean, especially for something that on the surface it may look bad, but maybe they need to figure out a better way of expressing their antagonism towards the other team.
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that people are trying to make the product that they portray a family product.
And sports, though.
I mean,
if you watch the Bad News Bears, I mean, that originally, I think, was supposed to be a movie somewhat geared towards kids. I was a kid when I watched it, and I think I picked up a few extracurricular words watching that movie.
It's amazing to me how you can watch people, and maybe it's because the cream of the crop now is more foreign-born players than it is Native American-born players.
Yeah.
For every Nikola Jokic and for every Luka Doncic, LeBron's getting older. We don't know how long he's going to play. He may play another year. He may play another 2 years. Kevin Durant's getting older. Who's going to really be the one that are Native American players who are going to carry the torch? Because once they retire, who's left?
Well, you got to start picking them out of the NCAA. Start watching some of these games that go on, and it's usually not even the big high-profile players. Sometimes you get people coming out of Southwest Louisiana State, that are great players. So,
indeed, you're absolutely right. We've seen that more often than not, especially back in the 80s and the early 90s. We've seen people coming from these small schools and come and just take over. Think about one that comes to mind off the top of my head. Look at Stephen Francis before he got to Maryland. Community college player, junior college player, gets to Maryland, takes off, and then he becomes a who knows how many times all NBA player.
Yeah.
So we've seen stories like that happen plenty of times, Wayne.
Yeah. What was I can't think of his name now. The player that played for Atlanta, the big high profile player in the 80s.
Dominique.
Yeah, Dominique. Well, where did he go to school at?
UGA. He is a University of Georgia Bulldog.
Yeah, and at the time, Georgia was not necessarily a basketball school, though.
No,
not as much as LSU or Florida or Kentucky was back then.
No, not even. Those early 80 Georgia teams were pretty much Dominique and the old ex-Indiana Pacer, Vern Fleming.
Yeah.
A lot of people may remember that name. Both of them were the old UGA players that kind of carried that team. But to UGA fans, you'll be happy to know if you haven't heard that Dominique's son did commit to Georgia, so he'll be playing there next season.
Right.
So
that's a pretty good deal.
Continue to keep the legacy going there.
Hey, and Georgia's got a decent coach now too.
Yeah, and we've seen them, make their way into the tournament. Didn't get a chance to make a lot of noise there, but they did, get there. So that's a start. And you got to start somewhere to make the next step. So to you UGA people,
yeah,
hats off to you. Got to step somewhere. But that's it, man. It's so many different variables, and I don't know why people don't care too much about basketball.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that all it's going to take is one player at a press conference call out some other player for something that happened on the court, and that he's going to be saying something, to antagonize the guy back, and all of a sudden it'll be on the news and people will be watching again.
Yeah,
I think it just needs some excitement and something to make people more interested in it.
Yeah, it does, and the playoffs of the NBA will start right around the corner. The West is very deep and intriguing. The East, not so much. But again, with some of the injuries that have happened and About a week and some change to go before the play-in tournament start. There's a lot of basketball still left to be played. Our Atlanta Hawks still got some things to play out for. I'm glad to see our number one overall pick, Zachary Risachet, having an awesome week on the basketball floor. Dyson Daniels continues to impress on the defensive side. Now even some on the offensive side, to the point to where he might even be in consideration for not only Defensive Player of the Year, but he may even be in consideration for Most Improved Player of the Year as well. So, hey, look, you got to take little wins as Hawks fans, man. You got to take them a little bit at a time, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Well, it's better than confused Memphis fans for firing their head coach, who I think was the winningest coach that they've ever had.
Wow.
There's got to be something going on behind the scenes that nobody knows about, or my conspiracy theory brain starts thinking there's a lot of Tiger fans questioning Penny Hardaway and his ability. You know, he goes to the tournament, first round, gets knocked out. Then what do you call them, boosters and everything, getting excited.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the elegant solution would be, Penny Hardaway's just moving up to the Grizzlies now. He's still here in Memphis, don't worry. And now he's moved up. We've elevated him to the Grizzlies head coach, which, you know, that could happen. I don't know.
Hey, that might not be a bad idea. You don't ever know what's going on behind the scenes, man. But I was like, Wayne, what's really going on? I know you got your ears on the ground up in Memphis. What's the good word on the street? What's coming through the newspapers? What's happening in the news outlets, you know?
Well, most of the news around here is either weather related or what's a nice safe way to put this pew pew safety. And that may be another reason why John Morant caught a little bit of heat, because you know, had he been a player for I don't know, some other city, it might not have been a big deal, but there's an awful lot of that creates problems here in Memphis.
Yeah, no doubt. And I can understand. And sometimes you have to be mature enough to know to be able to control your emotions. And unfortunately, we've seen more times than not that he has not been able to do so. And as the older folks used to tell us when we were growing up, I can show you a whole lot better than I can tell you. and I think a lot of people are just going to have to show him better than they can tell him. And you know, it is what it is. And that really much wraps up our content for tonight. Wayne, your final thought for this evening, my friend.
Well, I would say my only final thought is I want to express my appreciation to everybody who did join our tournament challenge group. We had, I think, 28 people this year, which was more than we've had before. Mm-hmm. Hopefully we'll, you know, find out who the big winner is and we'll get them their prize. But I just want to say I appreciate everybody for signing up for that, because it's very exciting when there's more people.
It is, absolutely. And I share those sentiments as well. How many of you all jumped on and just jumped into the bracket challenge and spreaded it and shared it and interacted with us and with your fellow men and women that joined in and wanted to get something on the action. Guys, it was wonderful. I appreciate you. I know Wayne does, and he shared that. TC and JJ does as well, because listen, a party is always better when there's more people invited.
Yeah.
Always, you know, even if the guests are a little rowdy, it's always better with more people at the party. So continue to listen. Same way with the content. If you like the content, like, subscribe, follow, share. We drop an episode usually every week, whether you catch us live here on our many, many different avenues to be able to consume, or you catch us on the Twitter Spaces or X Spaces, and we hop on and do one there. You can always follow the show there as well. My final thought is simply this for the Atlanta sports fan. We have suffered for ages. You know, we got a championship in 21 for the Braves. We thought we was going to catch one at the end of 16, early 17 with the Falcons, and it was taken away. And if you say 28-3, I don't know you, I will look away. We saw the appearance of the Atlanta Hawks almost get a chance to hit the finals before Trae Young snapped his ankle on a referee's foot. We are known for having bad luck, but eventually your luck has got to change. You cannot be bad forever. You know, how long? I don't know if it was the Cubs or it was the Red Sox. Was it the Cubs who went like 100 years before they won the World Series?
Something like that.
You know, a few years back. Guys, listen, ladies and gentlemen, calm down. For baseball, it's early. We know we want the Braves to win every year. We just do because we've been spoiled.
Yeah.
You know,
Kids Bop in traffic lady used to, what did she say to the lady in the backseat? Calm down, calm down.
Please calm down. Listen, we've seen the Braves work through it. The Falcons, we don't understand. The draft's just a few weeks away.
Yeah.
The Hawks are trying to make some noise and make a playoff run. You see the effort in the city. You can even see it in Atlanta United. You know, some acquisitions that we made, and they're doing well, and you know they're getting things together under a new coach as well. Listen, just support the city.
Yeah.
Look, you have every right to fuss, yell, snot, holler, spit, slobber, whatever you want to do.
Right. As long as you show up.
Just show up and be realistic. Have realistic expectations. We, as bad as our human nature and our fantasism wants us to be 162-0, that's just unrealistic. For me, my prediction at the beginning of the year is that the Braves will win 90 games.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. I think they can do that. Even now, with an 0-6 record, and I haven't even looked at what the score is going to be. I don't even know when first pitch was with the Dodgers today, but I do believe that even if they go 0-7, they can still win 90 games. Give them time, breathe. Let's enjoy this season. Let's forget about the pollen and understand that the Masters is just a couple of weeks away as well. So that's my final thought for it. And Wayne, anything else you want to drop before we get ready to sign off, my friend?
No, man, we're going to send some of this rain your way to knock some of that pollen out of the trees for you, man.
Please do, man. Please do. We could always use every bit of rain to knock down the pollen and keep the allergies. Luckily, I'm not an allergy sufferer, praise the Lord, but there are several of my colleagues and friends who are, and they are miserable right now trying to clean out the human air filters. Yeah. So with that being said, Wayne, it's been a pleasure, my guy. For Wayne up in Memphis, for Todd, who's in Woodstock on assignment, and for JJ, our prayers, our thoughts, and our condolences with you and your family who's normally in Lilburn. I'm Larry Gardner, and as JJ would say, until next week, get you one.